From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
You're listening to another episode of the Wildcast podcast. I'm Justin Spears, joined alongside by Alec White. Don't forget to subscribe to the Wildcast podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Had a number of people actually reach out on Twitter asking us about where they could find our podcast. And yeah, the Wildcast is everywhere. So wherever you listen to podcasts, just search the Wildcast and then make sure you subscribe, rate, review. We greatly appreciate it. And also don't forget to download the great Wildcaster app off the App Store and Google Play. It's free. That is the Wildcaster. I know some people over time have been confused. The Wildcaster is the app that we use to distribute all stories, podcasts, videos, all digital content on all things Arizona sports. And then the Wildcast is the podcast. So make sure you download both of those and share with all your friends. We got another great podcast here. We're going to talk some Arizona basketball. We got a rematch. Arizona against UCLA Thursday at McKale Center. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the latest in Arizona women's basketball. And then later in the podcast, you guys are going to hear my interview with Cate Reese. She was kind enough to join me on ESPN Radio earlier this week. And for those of you interested in listening to that, don't forget to tune in to Spears and Ali weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 on ESPN Tucson, whether it's 1490 AM, 1049 FM, ESPNTucson.com, or the Spears and Ali podcast. So we're going to hear from Cate Reese later on in the podcast. It's going to be great. But Alec, I want to talk about the elephant in the room here. And that's Tom Brady's retiring.
Oh yeah, that is. We can take a slight detour from the basketball podcast to talk about Tom Brady.
Well, the reason why I bring up Tom Brady retiring, and it got me thinking because
it has a ripple effect for Arizona Wildcats.
It does, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Rob Gronkowski has been his longtime teammate back in New England and also in Tampa Bay. As there's a fly around here that's annoying the hell out of us. But I think Gronk is done, right? Like
he has to be.
The reason why he came back to the NFL after retirement was to play with his quarterback in Tampa Bay. And he's always said that Tom Brady's going to be my quarterback. And if he's gone, then I'm gone. Or if he's there, then I'm going to be alongside with him. If Tom Brady's not there, I can't imagine Gronk being like, you know what? Let me settle for, hey, let's get Ryan Fitzpatrick and see what he's up to nowadays. Unless the Buccaneers make a trade for Nick Foles.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Aaron Rodgers.
Not Aaron Rodgers. Not Aaron Rodgers. Nick Foles.
Oh.
And you get Nick Foles to come out to Tampa Bay, and Gronk's like, you know what? Let's give Arizona fans one crack at what 2009 would have looked like the year that Nick Foles took over as starter and Gronk was sidelined with that back injury and then went into the NFL draft. So imagine Nick Foles, Tampa Bay, Gronk.
Dreaming is free. Dreaming is
say,
free.
Huh?
You can dream how
and it'd be
you
like
want.
the 2009 Arizona season, just like as I tweeted earlier, it'd be like a Diet Coke version. It'd be them in their later years in the NFL.
Nick Foles is going to have a nice scruff beard
exactly.
going on. Gronk still has a bionic arm, so dreaming. It's a wild scenario, and the NFL script writers would be very wise to maybe give you a phone call, and you can tell them, you can tell Roger Goodell that, but I don't think it's happening.
I want it to happen. Let's make it happen.
Man.
Let's make it happen. Nick Foles, Rob Gronkowski, Tampa Bay.
But hey,
run it back. Do it one time for 2009.
You know what? Tom Brady, his connection. Gronk is the greatest tight end of all time in NFL history. Like just stop. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't go debate somebody else on that one. And then Nick Foles is the only active NFL quarterback to beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl.
See. By the way. Gronk, the greatest tight end of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You can make a case that when it's all said and done, Travis Kelce, if he gets like a couple more Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But
there's nobody more unguardable than uncoverable, I guess, than Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, and also what matters is what do you do
most tight end
in the postseason?
Yeah, most touchdown receptions by a tight end in NFL playoff history.
So hey, when it matters most, rely on Rob Gronkowski. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Gronk does. If I'm a betting man, I'm putting the mortgage on Rob Gronkowski not playing in the NFL next season.
And he's probably not going to get the USAA.
Him and Brady are going to do it together. They're going to be like, "Hey Tom, we're back. We're back home.
No more spotty T-Mobile commercials."
Exactly. But yeah, the Nick Foles to Tampa Bay thing. I put on my tinfoil hat, and it got me thinking about theories that the NFL could run with. So I'm going to ride with that, but I think more likely than not, Rob Gronkowski's done with the NFL. But with that being said, Alec, by the way, we also have Twitter mailbag questions that we're going to answer later on in the podcast. But let's take a quick look at what we got this week. The Arizona men's basketball team. It's the rematch, but the rankings are flipped. This time, Arizona's the number 7 team. UCLA's the number 3 team in the matchup. Arizona, coming off an 11-point win against ASU, a win in which, once again, they shot poorly, but yet they still were able to shoot a bunch of free throws. I think the line, what was it, like 26 for 32 from the free throw line or something like that?
81% for the game.
So they were able to get to the free throw line a lot and utilize their bigs. Christian Coloco was very effective, and they were obviously dominant in paint points. So Arizona, even though they shot poorly, they were able to find a way to win. But UCLA is a very tough team, and you can't shoot poorly against them because they're also a team that, while you do have some length on them, they're still tough inside, and they can really size you up well. So the rematch is going to be really interesting to see, and I think UCLA, they're going to kind of replicate the game plan for the first time around, which is slow Arizona down, don't allow them to play up-tempo and fast, and have Tiger Campbell pick up Kirk Risa like 3/4 court. Like, it's almost like a full court press, and you're just breathing on them the entire time, and you're really making them uncomfortable. And when you do that and you slow them down, then that's how you can really bog down this team and beat a team like Arizona.
And this game is really important for both the small picture of it and then the big picture for the entire season. If Arizona loses this game, let's talk small picture. Just for the sake of the argument, say they lose on Thursday. Now you really start to worry about Arizona. Unless it's they play like super great and UCLA plays their best game of the season. It's just this titanic match where Arizona plays extremely well and loses. But if they have another showing like they did in the first match, then the questions about this team start to pour in of, are they really a national title contender? Can they win the Pac-12? Did we overrate their early season wins against Michigan and Illinois? And going back to what we talked about a couple podcasts ago with Tommy Lloyd calling Arizona's high-ranking rat poison. Could that really be the rat poison that he was referencing? So a lot going on in the small picture. And then big picture, like if they lose this game, they're probably not going to win the Pac-12 regular season championship.
No.
You're not going to get a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. You might not get a number 2 seed even in the NCAA tournament. So you'd be looking 2 losses to UCLA, and then unless they get a third game in the Pac-12 tournament, you don't have a resume staple win going into March Madness. And so you'd be looking at a 3 or 4 seed, which a couple weeks ago we thought was not possible.
Yeah, well, they do have some quality wins that I think the committee would look at as solid wins, like the win against Michigan.
But Michigan right now is not a tournament team
for sure. They definitely slid down, but also, what other
Illinois?
Illinois on
Wyoming win looks really impressive all of a sudden because Wyoming,
and they beat them by like almost 30.
Yeah,
and Illinois beat Michigan State, a top 10 team. So they have some quality wins on their plate, but
that's a long time ago.
That is a long time ago. But they also have games against USC, so that they can win those games. That I think is a quality win. Oregon has really come on as of late. We don't know what the future holds with the Ducks and how they're going to look moving forward. But I just think that Arizona right now, at this point, I think a lot would have to happen dramatically for them to get into the 4 seed conversation.
The 4 seed, yes.
I think a 2 or 3, that's perfect for them. Because, I mean, imagine year 1 under Tommy Lloyd, and you're coming in as a number 1 seed. I feel like
that's the way to the world.
I feel like it's unfair to Tommy Lloyd, and it's unfair to the guys, because it's like, okay, this team is magical. They went from, being this team where a lot of people didn't have any expectations for them. They came in unranked. They were voted to finish number 6 in the Pac-12, and now all of a sudden they're a number 1 seed. Oh man, this team's going to be great, and then it's going to set a bar super high for Tommy Lloyd, and we don't know what's going to happen. We saw what happened with the previous coach who set the bar really high. Year 2 going to the Elite 8. Yeah. So I think getting a 2 or a 3 seed, putting together a nice tournament run, and just kind of letting the chips fall where they may. I think this team is capable of getting to the Final Four.
Absolutely.
I really do. But right now, do they look like a Final Four team?
This week's going to say a lot about it.
I don't think so. And like you said, Alec, this week is really going to be very telling. That Thursday game at McKale Center, that's going to be huge.
You got, 3 games in 5 days, because they'll play UCLA Thursday, USC Saturday, and then ASU up in Tempe on that Monday. So you're looking at a pretty big stretch here. Just, like I said, small picture and big picture. That USC game is going to be really intriguing to me too, because
the one at home or the
one at home.
Okay.
I mean, they still have to go to USC at some point, but I'm talking this weekend on Saturday, because that's sandwiched in between 2 very high emotional games. The UCLA one on Thursday, and then the Arizona State one that's going to be next Monday up in Tempe. Like, that's still a huge game against USC on Saturday. That's a potential trap game either way. Even if Arizona loses on Thursday to UCLA, that Saturday game feels like it's going to be one that's going to be really close either way.
Yeah. Well, in ASU, give them credit. I mean, they were kind of capitalizing on Arizona's offensive struggles, and they kept it very close. It was neck and neck there until the final half of the second half, when Arizona started to pull away with the final 6 or 7 minutes left. But I mean, what was it? The 2013-14 season, ASU beat the Wildcats up in Tempe.
When they were number 2, right?
Yeah. So anything could happen. So this week is going to be very, very telling for what this team is capable of. I just want to see how Cate Reese is going to be to handle all this, because things were going well for him. He led the Pac-12 in assists. He was one of the faces for Arizona, and he had this confidence to him, this swagger that was almost like, if you're on the other team, you find it obnoxious. But if you're an Arizona fan, or if you're teammates with him, you love it. You embrace it. Well, now the confidence, I don't know about you, Alec, it seems like it's kind of gone down a little bit. I don't see Cate Reese walking it with as much pep to his step, because he's been shooting, what, is it 2 for 20 over the last 10 games?
I don't know, though, because as soon as he made his first 3,
he did kiss the court.
He kissed the court. He was waving around. Like, it's maybe not as 24/7 in your face as he was doing it, over the previous month.
He was staring down defenders.
Yeah,
too.
But he's still
he's
displaying the swaggerness, I guess, that we've come to see from him over this season. I think for Arizona to win on Thursday, Kerr's going to have to, like you said, have a much better showing than he did in that first game. Ben Mathurin is a guy that I think has to take over at some point, where you're going to need, probably in the second half, in the closing minutes, you're going to need to say, hey, we just need a bucket. Go to the rim, get a bucket, get a shoot, jumper. Ben Mathurin's got to be the guy. Cate Reese can be the energy guy. I like to see Kerr, for all we like about his 3-point shooting when he's on. I like to see him maybe as a bit more of a distributor, because I think that's where he gets into trouble as a player, is not necessarily when he misses, but it's when he misses and that affects all the other parts of his game where all of a sudden he's not distributing the ball as well. He's head hunting for shots. So if he's not as on point shooting, like he's got to be able to distribute the ball, get 5 or 6 assists, not turn the ball over.
All right. By the way, speaking of Ben Mathurin, he was named to the midseason Wooden Award watch list and also the Jerry West Award watch list, which is given to the top shooting guard in college basketball. Now let's move over to women's basketball. Alec, you were able to watch the Arizona-Stanford National Championship rematch, and I was flipping back and forth between that and NFL playoffs. And I switched back over. One notable stretch that I watched was when Arizona was down by 10. Excuse me, it's allergy season. Arizona was down by 10, and Cate Reese hit back-to-back three-pointers and got Arizona back. And Arizona, I mean, they really made it a game. They only lost by 6. All the road in Palo Alto. I know we don't, Arizona's gotten to a point now where it's like you can't take any moral victories because they were just at the national championship. But they were just at the national championship with this team who also returned a lot of talent, and Arizona only lost by 6. I think that's very encouraging.
Oh, it was definitely a good performance from Arizona. This wasn't one where you leave the game having a ton of questions about the identity of Arizona or saying, someone's got to step up. Like, they played a good game. That's just running into the national title, defending champions. And Cameron Brink from Stanford, she had 25 and 15. She was just unguardable in the post. That kind of is what concerned me because Arizona didn't have an answer for her in the post. Like, you're going to run into players that can do that in the NCAA tournament once you get to the second weekend. So the post defense, like Cate Reese played well, but it was Lauren Ware. She got into foul trouble. Yeah. Coy Love got into some foul trouble. So a lot of the pieces that we thought could help boost Arizona this year, like an Araya Copeland, like Lauren Ware coming back, sophomore season, seeing what she can do in a full year of just focusing on basketball. Like, some of those question marks are popping up a little bit, but Sam Thomas was great. Shayna Pellington was terrific once again. So nothing to be ashamed of for Arizona. I think they're going to come out this weekend and have a lot to prove against the Oregon schools. And Oregon coming up, the rematch of what happened in Eugene, the overtime loss. That's Friday. It's going to be a whiteout. You're expecting close to 10,000 fans. So really important stretch for the women's team at home this weekend.
All right, now time for Twitter mailbag. Bunch of questions this week, Alec. Let's first start off with Matt Kopik. Matt asks, I would like to ask about upgrades to Arizona Stadium. I talked to the athletic director, Dave Hickey, at the start of the new year, asked him about it. He said that they're always looking for changes at Arizona Stadium. They just did a bunch with the north end zone. Jed Fish was able to generate like $4 to $6 million. So the building, the Lowell Stevens football facility, they upgraded the offices, tricked it out, added a cool new media studio to it. The locker rooms are all upgraded. But I'm interested to see really how the west side of the stadium begins to evolve, because that's one side that's been kind of ignored.
Yeah, well, there was like a couple years ago, it was 2019 when Dave Hickey brought everybody up because they had renovated some of the upstairs clubs and guest suites, but then the pandemic hit, and then the Arizona Wildcats, as an athletic department, was facing a deficit. So I think they're still in the planning stages of developing that west side. But I think you're right. That's going to be the next one to see some upgrades. And I know we've talked about this a lot. I don't know what Dave Hickey thinks about this, but that turf needs to be replaced at some point. Either new turf or grass. I know we would love to see some grass.
Bring it back.
But hopefully that turf is, in the next couple of years, getting replaced, because you just see turf pellets more than actual grass.
It's like a little rundown. All right, our next question comes from Brad Malone. Big shout out to Brad. Why do you think Tubelis continues to play so much with his injury? Any word on how his recovery is going? Tommy Lloyd did say in his radio show last night, according to Bruce Pascoe, that Zulus is still battling this, and it's still considered a high ankle sprain. I'm not sure. I mean, if it's really that bad, they're going to keep him out. Like Tommy Lloyd has always said that we've looked at the big picture here, but Azuolas shows that he can play and that the ankle is manageable. So they need bodies out there because if you take out Azuolas Tubelis, I mean their bench is down to Kyer and Ballo because that Pelle Larsson's starting in place. So they need Azuolas right now, even if he's only 80-85%.
Yeah, you can tell that he's not the same right now, but Azuolas has said, and Tommy has said as well, that he wants to be out there. And Tommy is not a guy that will diagnose a player's injury. He's going to leave that to the training staff, and he'll listen to what the training staff says. So it's more of a training staff to Bellis question. And I think, right now it's just pain management, like how, not necessarily how tough, but how well can Tubelis manage the pain, leading up to the game, on game days, getting treatment. So, he hasn't looked great at times when he's been out there, but he's been serviceable. And I think in an important stretch like this, you need as many minutes as he can give.
All right, next one comes from Andrew at Bear Down Go Dubs. He says, what does it say about Arizona if we 1, beat UCLA, or 2, lose to UCLA? Lose to UCLA, Arizona is not the best team in the Pac-12, which is okay because they were never predicted to be the best team in the Pac-12. And the better team in the Pac-12 went to a Final Four a year ago and returned it pretty much everybody on their roster. So if they lose to UCLA, so what? If they beat UCLA, solid win, way to bounce back after losing to them on the road. But this game, if they beat them, it doesn't really matter. The one that I'm looking forward to most is the one in Las Vegas, neutral site court, but there's going to be more Arizona fans. We know that at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. How they play in the Pac-12 tournament, in the rubber match, if Arizona were to win, that's the one I'm looking forward to.
I'm on a little different perspective than that. Like I kind of talked about it earlier. I get more concerned if Arizona plays bad again and loses to UCLA, because then you have all the questions start to creep up about how legitimate is this Arizona team, because they haven't had a solid win in about a month. Even taking into account some of the dominant Pac-12 performance they've had, but that's against Cal and Stanford. If they win, I think it shows a lot about the resiliency of the team, because they haven't played well the last 2 games. If they're able to overcome, some of the shooting slumps that we've seen Cate Reese have and Ben Mathurin have over the last couple games, and they're able to beat UCLA at home, because now you have this underdog mentality. That's where I like Arizona specifically, is they entered the year but they entered under the radar. They were under the radar for quite a while. So it just shows that they're able to continue having that chip on their shoulder.
All right, next question comes from Gus Noriega. He asks, Kerr's shot seems off. Doesn't look the same, especially during big games. Should we be worried as March is around the corner, or is there plenty of time for him to sort things out? Plenty of time for him to sort things out. The only issue is, though, he has struggled against really good point guards. Tiger Campbell, for an example, played an awesome game against Kerr. The point guard from Tennessee, the
Kennedy
Chandler. Even though Tommy Lloyd says, Kerr was the reason why it sparked a run for us against Tennessee on the road to get us back into the game. Kennedy Chandler kind of took Cate Reese into the woodshed during that game. So point guard play really concerns me for Arizona if they were to run into a team with a great point guard, is led by a point guard in the tournament. That could be trouble for Arizona, but I think there's plenty of time for Kerr to figure it out. Next question, what are the odds? There's actually a couple of questions about, everyone wants to know what's happened with Kim Aiken. We don't know. We don't know.
No clue.
We don't know. And listen, we've done everything. We've turned every stone that we possibly could as journalists. Nothing. That's it.
Pretty mum.
Just nothing. Okay. Andy Blaho, hope I'm pronouncing that right. Has anyone asked Hiki about an update to Arizona Stadium renovations? We kind of talked about that. He said Oregon State is updating theirs. Well, they're like...
Yeah, they blew the entire side of the stadium.
They blew it up.
They had some dynamite sticks and just chucked it over there.
Oh, man. I've always wanted to watch one of those in person. Let's see here. Case A says, what is Dave Hickey's future with the department? Doesn't seem to have control over athletics, but he is staying as long as Robbins is there. I would say like he doesn't have control of athletics. Like he's done a lot of renovation projects, like rebuilding the entire Rita Hillenbrand Stadium, all the additions to Arizona Stadium, upgrading McKale Center. Like Dave Hickey's done a lot as an athletic director, and he was also the AD and helped navigate Arizona through a global pandemic.
Yep. And you look at some of the
coaching hires.
The hires, right? And the hires and also like who he's retained, like Clancy Shields, men's tennis, like they're off and running again.
Keeping Adia when Baylor was waving a checkbook.
Could have easily left for Baylor.
Yeah.
Helping transition between, Mike Candrea and Caitlin Lowe, like for softball, that's huge. Getting Chip Hale to leave the MLB coaching side, like that's huge to get somebody that's been in the MLB for a long time to come back to his alma mater. Like that, we'll see how successful Chip Hale is at Arizona, but still, that's a huge fish to land. Get one of your all-time, best baseball players to come back and coach.
Speaking of fish, Bayzona asks, who is a secret football commit that will be signing soon?
You'll see.
You'll see. Stay tuned. He is a guy who is committed somewhere. Is going to be a flip, and it's going to be a big one, and it's going to be at a position of need for the Arizona Wildcats. So stay tuned for that. All right, that is it for the Twitter mailbag. Thanks to all who have sent questions. We do this every single time we do a podcast. So if you ever want to hit us up, make sure you tag us on Twitter at the Wildcaster. And of course, we'll always put out a tweet asking you guys for questions. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think it is time for the interview with Cate Reese. She joined me on ESPN Radio earlier this week to talk about the loss to Stanford, what they learned, and the matchup with Oregon Friday night. But we're going to go ahead and sign off now. We'll get to the interview in just a second, but we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for everyone for listening to the Wildcast podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the Wildcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please be sure to download the Wildcaster app on either the App Store or Google Play. Now on to Cate Reese.
You're listening to Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. Presented by Casino del Sol, the soul of Tucson. And brought to you by Ryan Brown at Long Realty.
Not fist pumping right now, there's something wrong with you. And you know what? It's going to be a rave at McKale Center this Friday between the Arizona Wildcats and the Oregon Ducks. And here to talk about that game is Arizona women's basketball star, the one and only Cate Reese, who joins us here on ESPN Radio. What's going on, Cate?
Hi.
Cate, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And what are you expecting out of this game on Friday? Tell us about, Oregon versus Arizona, what you took away from the first matchup, and what fans can expect when they go this Friday.
I would say just looking back at the game, there were just kind of a little bit of the mistakes that we made that kind of let them back into the game. Obviously, we were up, I don't even know, 19-ish points going into the third, fourth quarter. So I think that's definitely something that we need to work on. Obviously, teams never give up, so that was definitely our mistake. So we just need to make sure when they come here on Friday that we're prepared, that we start off strong and finish strong. I think also we're definitely hoping for a sold-out McKale, or at least close to that. I know it's a big game. It's kind of been anticipated since all the stuff happened during the Oregon game there. So, we're all super excited to play and just kind of ready for that second the rematch.
Now that you're a senior, is it safe to say that maybe Oregon has been your biggest rival during your time at Arizona? Because I remember, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, they might have said something about your three-point shot, and then you knocked down a bunch of three-pointers against them. And then the last time you guys played Oregon, obviously the incident with Kelly Graves and Adia Barnes. Is it safe to say that Oregon has been your biggest rivalry since you started at Arizona?
I would say, especially within these past 2 seasons. I mean, obviously, my freshman and sophomore year, they were really, really good. So it was definitely difficult for us when they came, but it was a nice challenge for us. I think now it's definitely a bigger competition just because they don't have Sabrina, Ruthie, and Tatu like they used to. They were just such a powerful 3 players. So I think now it's definitely a bigger battle for us. We're definitely looking forward to it, but I would say they are one of our biggest rivals, I guess, in the Pac-12.
Cate, at the end of December, you guys went on basically what I'm calling a COVID break, where there was no basketball, no court play at all because you guys had to take some time off. And then you kind of restarted the season. On Sunday, the way you guys played against Stanford, it felt like you were finally getting your legs under you and ready to just take off, progressing through the rest of the season. Did you get that sense during that game as well?
Yeah, I think we definitely started a lot more energized than we did in the UCLA or Colorado game, which was kind of a problem for us in those games, just starting off super slow. So I think we did a lot better, I think, against Stanford, just coming out ready, not really giving up a huge lead in the beginning of the game. I think we competed pretty much the entire game. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit of the mistakes that we had made throughout the game that kind of hurt us a lot. So I think we played really well together. I thought, our defense could have been a little better here and there, but that's definitely something that we're working on. We're trying to get the defense to how it was in the NCAA tournament last year, and obviously even then it wasn't as good as it was in the tournament. So I think it's just kind of working on those things and it becoming more so a habit in the game. And I think that we're on our way to being that defensive team that we were last year around tournament time. So we're looking forward to just finishing off the rest of conference play and then going into the Pac-12 tournament and then whatever happens after that.
Cate, is that the key to making another long run in the NCAA tournament, is getting your defense to where you want it to be?
Yeah, I think it is. I think getting our chemistry up, just, having everyone play as a team together. And, yeah, definitely the defensive tenacity that we had in the tournament was definitely a huge part of who we were and just how we got as far as we did.
Arizona women's basketball star Cate Reese joining Spears and Ali on ESPN Tucson. So, Cate, last year, obviously the Wildcats had a great player by the name of Aari McDonald. Arguably, I would say it's safe to say at this point she is the greatest player in program history. But now at this point in the season, your team is ranked in the top 10. You're moving along nicely. What would you say is the identity of this team in the post-Aari McDonald era?
I think it's definitely more the scoring is a lot more spread out. I mean, I think a lot of times last year we looked at Aari to be able to, make a three or, get to the free throw line. So it's definitely something that we've kind of had to look at and be like, okay, like, who's going to take this shot? Who's going to be the defensive stopper? So I think it's been huge for us to kind of just have a different look for Arizona women's basketball since Aari left.
Yeah.
Obviously, we miss her so much. And she's doing great things at the pro level now. So I think it's definitely more so just kind of finding what our new identity is. And I definitely think it's more of a balanced kind of fight for us now.
Yeah. And, Shayna Pellington, the Oklahoma transfer, she stepped in to fill the void of Aari McDonald as the starting point guard. And, the Arizona Wildcats, you, Shayna, and Sam Thomas, you're like this big three that the Wildcats have. But, can you just talk about Shayna and the job that she's done this year, filling the void that Aari McDonald left?
Yeah, she's done a great job. I mean, she's incredibly fast. I mean, it's really hard. There's a lot of mismatches on her just because she's so quick. I would say, too, she's definitely been working on her shot, which I'm sure you can tell in the game. She's been working on her three-point shot. She's been working on her mid-range and her free throw. So I think she's been a big part of what we're doing here in Arizona. And, I'm just happy that, she could step in and just be that confident point guard that we need.
Cate, with what happened the last time you guys were at Oregon with Oregon's coach, Nadia Barnes, I know Coach Barnes really cultivates a culture of unity and togetherness, and if it's personal for her, it's personal for you guys. How do you channel that emotion so that it doesn't get away from you when the ball's tipped off?
Honestly, we haven't really discussed a lot of what happened at the end of that game. It's more so about just how we lost the game. It's definitely frustrating to have taken a loss, especially when we had such a big lead. So I think that's definitely something that has kind of been in the back of our minds. And we're not really into all the drama that happened, but more so about just focusing on the game and winning that and playing the best 40 minutes that we can.
Cate Reese joining Spears and Ali on ESPN Radio. Cate, the Arizona Wildcats have one of the top-ranked recruiting classes for 2022. Adia Barnes was able to snag a couple more McDonald's All-Americans. As a fellow McDonald's All-American yourself, what can you just tell us about the job that Adia has done recruiting-wise and really building up the future of Arizona basketball?
It's awesome. Obviously, when I was committed here and came here, I was the only McDonald's All-American. So being able to, add more is always great. It was definitely something that we were looking forward to. Being able to recruit players that were in the McDonald's game is great and always a dream. So I'm excited for just the new recruiting class to come in and just kind of leave their mark and leave their legacy.
Cate Reese, Arizona women's basketball star, joining Spears and Ali on ESPN Radio. The Wildcats have a big-time matchup against the Oregon Ducks this Friday at 8 p.m. That is a whiteout game. Make sure you go support the Wildcats at McKale Center against Oregon. That is Cate Reese. Cate, thank you for your time, and good luck this Friday.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Cate.
Treat yourself to a little something organic. Kora's whisper-thin yet mighty absorbent pads have a breathable 100% organic cotton top sheet and are made without fragrance, dyes, and chlorine. 'Cause your vulva's not a hot tub. With patented smart channels for up to 8 hours of leak protection, Kora's got you covered however you flow. Plus, Kora donates period products to people in need with every purchase. Find Kora nationwide at Target, CVS, and online at cora.life.